what the hell is going on in DC? Now, because of the rampant crime in Washington, DC, Trump has deployed the National Guard to the area, saying that he wants to, quote, rescue the nation's capital from crime. Now, many are pushing back on him, saying that he's authoritarian, that he's creating a police state, while others are saying he's doing what's necessary to help not only Washington, DC, but all of its citizens survive this crime rampage that's taking place in the city. So, let's talk about it.
Yeah, you better. Yeah, you better.
Guys, before we get into today's video, please like and subscribe, because today we're going to be talking about Washington, D.C. Now, I do not reside in Washington, D.C. I visited D.C. on a few occasions, and I can't say it felt like the safest place, and I'm saying that as a girl who's currently living in Los Angeles, and we know what Los Angeles looks like on a typical day. I can tell you my car in Los Angeles has been broken into not once, but twice, okay? And twice is far too many. Once is too many, okay? So I know a little bit about living in a city that has running rampant with crime. Now, I'm going to get you into a news clip that talks about Trump and this decision to deploy the National Guard to Washington, D.C., and then we'll talk a little bit more about the issue.
President Trump earlier saying he's deploying the National Guard to the nation's capital and placing police under federal control now. Let's bring in D.C. Police Union Chairman Gregory Pemberton. Thank you so much, sir, for being here. So from your view, is this necessary?
Well, look, we completely agree with the president that crime in the District of Columbia is out of control and something needs to be done with it. We have to go back to how we got here, though. In 2020, the D.C. City Council passed an enormous amount of legislation that handcuffed police officers, exposes them to administrative, civil, and even criminal liability, even when they do their jobs properly. And now, 5 years later, our authorized sworn strength is 4,000 sworn police officers. We currently have 3,180. So we have more than 800 vacancies for the position of police officer. And the way the department makes up for that gap is through 2 million hours of mandatory overtime every year. So the fact that we need help from federal law enforcement and maybe even the National Guard, it shouldn't come as a surprise. And we agree with that. I think one of the issues here, though, is that we all know that's going to be temporary. So in order to fix this problem and make sure that it doesn't ebb and flow and that the feds come in and we lower crime and then they leave and we're left holding the bag, it's very important that people know that there is underlying legislation that needs to be corrected so that we can actually properly staff this police department in order to properly police the city.
I don't know, sounds reasonable to me. Now, I can understand people being a little bit apprehensive about the federal government getting involved in their community, especially on the basis of law enforcement, but it seems like it's necessary. When your city is looking like Gotham City,
Gotham is yours. None shall interfere. Do as you please.
I bet you should be thanking the National Guard for showing up and trying to take care of the criminals in the area. And there's an extensive problem in Washington, D.C., just like there is in my city of L.A. There's tons of carjackings, breaking and entering, looting, robbing, murders. The small city of D.C. has already dealt with over 100 homicides in just this year alone. So if Trump says, hey, we need to get this situation handled and use the National Guard to do so, maybe we should go forward with that, especially when you're listening to those numbers about the police force, how low they are in actual officers and how overworked these individuals are. And again, we have these same problems going on in LA. If you talk to local law enforcement, they're almost handcuffed and doing their own job. It's very difficult to do their job even when they're doing it well. And most of them are. So you're looking at officers who are overworked, and when they are working, they're having to jump through hoops just to do normal aspects of their job. And I can't imagine that is not deeply impacting a place like Washington, D.C. Now, despite this reality, Democrats have been saying that crime is actually going down in the area, so they don't understand why the National Guard has been deployed. But let's watch a news clip where we have a local resident ask whether or not she believes crime has gone down in her area.
You hear from city leaders and others that crime is actually down. Are you seeing that?
No, I'm not seeing it. We're seeing carjackings, the violence in the communities. So we were advocating then for the National Guard to come out, but they said there was no need. But think about how many lives could have been saved just having them on the scene.
And she's not the only resident that feels this way. You can hear from many living in Washington, D.C. and cities alike that crime is on the rise, and we're feeling it in our very own backyards. And if we need the National Guard to come in and fix this, we need the National Guard to come in and fix this. But in case you need more stats, here's more. D.C. has one of the highest murder rates in the world right now, okay? And one of the police chiefs who was responsible for circulating this myth that crime was going down was actually fired. So there you go. But of course, this leads me to another discussion about the current police chief in Washington, D.C. Now, this individual, this woman, was prior the chief diversity officer. Gotta love that. Actually, let me get the title right because they don't want to mistitle this individual. She was the chief equity officer, which means she was in charge of, quote, the department's efforts on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Now, you guys know how I feel about DEI, okay? It's a failed practice. It is not helpful towards any of our institutions, let alone law enforcement. And you could say, Amala, just because she was the chief equity officer doesn't mean that she's not going to be good as the DC police chief. She could just really be stepping up right now, you know, stepping into her element, really getting them organized in maybe a chain of command. Well, watch this clip.
That's what the chain of command is now?
What does that mean?
Well, is it Pam Bondi speaking to the mayor, speaking to you, or how does this work?
So the executive order is clear. The president has requested MPD services, and our home rule charter outlines the process. The president designated Attorney General Bondi as his proxy to request services through me.
Okay, so there you have it. Chain of command. What does that mean? And I don't know, this could be a one-off, it could be a fluke, but it does seem pretty essential to your job to understand what a chain of command is. So I don't know, when I'm looking at this Washington, D.C. story, it seems pretty plain and simple to me that it probably is necessary for the National Guard to be deployed to this city in order to inject a little bit of law and order to the goings-ons on a daily basis for Washington, D.C. And not only is it probably necessary there, but there are other metropolitan areas that I'm looking at, including the one that I'm living in, where I'm thinking somebody needs to get up in here and reconfigure things. And if you don't want that to happen on a federal level, then make sure that that is happening on a local level. And instead, what we're having is these soft on crime politicians being ushered into leadership, and they're making the lives of regular citizens living hell. They're leaving us to carry the burden of whatever the criminals around us want to do. I'm reminded in California, they had these soft on crime policies about shoplifting, where they essentially said if you shoplift under $950, you can do so, and it's no longer going to be seen as a felony. You can basically just get away with shoplifting now. And what did that lead to? A whole bunch of looting, a whole bunch of people being robbed. And it basically tells criminals in the city, you're okay, do whatever you want to do, because leadership here does not give a about the people who live here. And how many victim stories do you need to hear before something is done about this? I'll give you a few stories in this video just to substantiate the claim that this is probably necessary. An ABC News anchor revealed that she was jumped by a half-dressed vagrant in DC. Quote, "We're all experiencing it firsthand." Or you can hear from the family members of murder victims in D.C.
With the Trump administration now vowing to crack down on crime here in the district in light of last week's assault on a former Doge staffer, Nazia Israel says for her it brings mixed emotions.
It comes at their front door, and you want to do something about it.
2 years ago, her brother Reggie was brutally beaten to death on Georgia Avenue by 5 girls, ages 12 to 15. Reggie was battling cancer and weighed just 110 pounds. Social media messages by the girls revealed during the trial for Brown's murder said they did it because they were bored.
Do you need to hear more? And many of the families of these victims who have lost their lives, many of the victims who fortunately did not lose their lives, are coming forward and asking the question, why has this not happened sooner? And making the statement as this one made of why did it have to come to your backyard in order for you to recognize it? And that's a totally understandable question to ask. When you are dealing with this on a day-to-day basis in your community, you are seeing your community rot right in front of you. You are witnessing victim after victim pop up because criminals are able to run rampant through your city. It does become a question of when are we going to get help? And when we do get help, why did we not get it sooner? And we've seen this happen time and time again in the metropolitan areas of the United States. And why? Just ask yourself why. I mean, I have a few theories. Many of these areas are often run by Democrat politicians who are running soft on crime policies and are pushing ideas of restorative justice, which essentially means we don't want to put people in prison or in jail. We want to start giving people zero bail because we're scared about their socioeconomic status. And instead of caring about crime and the victims of those crimes, they care more about the criminals. And then when somebody comes in and implements something that is hopefully going to change the state of things, is going to bring down crime and save citizens' lives, they push back on these individuals. Now, I'm going to show you a crazy TikTok response to cops and federal officers showing up in D.C. to take care of this law and order issue. Let's watch.
Black people in D.C., get your and take care of them police officers like they should have been taken care of 50 years ago.
Okay. You're making a great claim not to have the National Guard in DC. What the hell are you talking about? And it's not like the National Guard is going there to specifically target black people. They are going there to target criminals. And why would you not want that for the area that you're living in? Even beyond that, why would you want police officers to be attacked? It is this sort of mentality towards policing, these sort of ideas about Black Lives Matter and restorative justice that lead to the issues that Washington, D.C. is experiencing in the first place. And while that's just one crazy person on TikTok, let's turn to some of our media figures, let's say at MSNBC, to see how they're responding to this Washington, D.C. takeover.
I think it's really important to be clear about what is going on here. And a relatively small crime problem is being used for specific authoritarian purposes that we know and understand. So let's be clear about D.C. does have one really big crime problem, which was the January 6th insurrection incited by the current President of the United States, and his first act in coming back was pardoning all the people who tried to overturn constitutional republic order in Washington, D.C. When I go to D.C., I'm not afraid of losing my wallet so much as I'm afraid of losing my vote. I'm not afraid of losing my wallet so much as I'm afraid that my children's freedom to breathe will be stolen in a world where climate change policy is non-existent. I'm afraid that the future of middle-class people will be stolen by the very things you were talking about, cutting the safety net, cutting Medicaid, cutting rural hospitals.
Right.
So there is carjacking.
And of course.
Yeah. Okay, that's what you're afraid of. And maybe this MSNBC host has like a very cushy life. Maybe he feels secure. I'm sure the MSNBC building has security of some sort. So maybe he's not afraid of losing his wallet or being carjacked or having any sort of crime befall him. But guaranteed, the people who are living in Washington, D.C. are dealing with these issues every single day, not just on January 6th. And if we want to bring up January 6th, don't make me get into the BLM riots. I could go on and on about this. But instead of addressing the true issue, which has not brought the National Guard into DC for no reason, he decides to skirt the issue and to talk about something else. He's scared of losing his vote and not his wallet. Well, congratulations to him. He's leading a more safe and secure life than many of those who are living in DC. And if you are a citizen of DC who's been a victim of a crime, a family member of somebody who's been a victim of crime, or somebody who's probably going to experience it in the future, just know that this host at MSNBC doesn't care. And if you call now, we get another clip from MSNBC. Let's watch.
You don't think more police make streets safer?
No, Joe. I'm a black woman in America. I do not always think that more police make streets safer. When you walk down the streets of Georgetown, you don't see a police officer on every corner, but you don't feel unsafe. So what is it about talking about places like Southeast D.C., right? Ward 8, if you will, that people say, well, we need more officers to make us safe. I think we have to rethink what safety means in America.
I'm going to go out on a strong limb here and say that the reason that people talk about these two areas differently is because they experience these two areas differently. And probably one area has a far bigger problem with crime and criminals than the other. Plain and simple. It's really as simple as that. And I have a feeling that she, as a black woman in America, is not going to have that much trouble with police unless she creates trouble with police officers. I'm so sick of this narrative that because of somebody's skin color, there should not be more police in their area. Oftentimes, people who are black and brown are living in the areas that need police the most. They are living in areas that deal with the most crime. And for you to use your identity as some sort of reason to not have that is absolutely ridiculous. Especially considering she's an affluent black woman who's sitting on MSNBC. Now, when it comes to the situation with Washington, D.C. and the National Guard, it seems as though it's going to be a temporary situation. If that at all changes, I guess we'll get back to it and talk about it again. But you know what's going to happen in this temporary situation? We're going to see a change in numbers. Either the crime is going to go up, it's going to stay the same, or it's going to go down. And then we'll have something to look at when it comes to the effectiveness of this practice. But we can see that the practice didn't just pop up out of nowhere. The city has been dealing with a rampant crime issue. Citizens have been screaming from the rooftops, wanting somebody to do something about this, wanting a little bit of law and order in their backyards, and now they're getting it. And hopefully it is for the betterment of Washington, D.C. And if it's not, you go back to the drawing board. Now I can see, again, as I said at the top of this video, the apprehension about having the federal government get involved in your city, especially when it comes to law enforcement. But if it brings down crime and it is on a temporary basis, who's complaining and why. It seems the only people who are complaining on the basis of identity and on the basis of Orange Man bad. So I guess we're going to wait and see what the numbers look like in Washington, D.C. when it comes to the crime rates after this National Guard deployment. And that's all I have to say about this. From one person in a crime-ridden area to another, I hope it goes down. Guys, leave your thoughts in the comments down below. I would love to hear from you guys. If you disagree with anything I said in this video, do get up and do so respectfully. I encourage healthy debate on this channel. And if you like this video, like, subscribe, click the notification bell to be notified every single time I post a video for you guys, which is every day. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye, guys.